honor of baseball season, my movie this week is going to be the 1984 classic, The Natural. This movie was directed by Barry Levison, and this was only his second theatrical release movie that he directed. His first one was the 1982 movie Diner. But he is, of course, also known for directing such classics as Good Morning Vietnam, Rain Man. He directed Bugsy. More recently, he has been doing TV. My favorite TV work of his is the 1990s series Homicide: Life on the Streets. The Natural is based on a 1952 novel by Bernard Malamud. Is the basic same story, but it does stray far away from some of the storyline. But the screenplay was written by Roger Town and Phil Dusenberry. I would call The Natural a baseball fable, a magical realism, if you will. The movie is not without its flaws, but when it comes together, this movie is almost magical and mythical about baseball itself. With Robert Redford as the star of the movie, he plays Roy Hobbs, and he lends his movie star charm to this story, this fable, perfectly. And Robert Redford lends some reality in his baseball playing. When he was young, he played baseball in high school and college, so he knows what he was doing. He's not an actor who was cast just because he was popular, which you really don't get more popular, especially during those times, than Robert Redford. Although he took this movie after a 3-year hiatus from acting. The last movie he did before this was the movie Brubaker, which came out in 1980. They started filming The Natural in 1983. That's why it's just a 3-year absence between acting. And of course, in 1980, he started directing, and he famously won the Oscar in 1980 for directing for the movie Ordinary People, which won over Raging Bull, which quite the controversy now, but I do believe Raging Bull should have won. I don't discredit the movie Ordinary People because it's actually a really good movie, a really good family drama. The movie is filled with familiar faces that make up its cast. It also stars Robert Duvall as reporter Max Mercy. It has Glenn Close as Iris Gaines, who is Roy Hobbs' childhood love. Kim Basinger also is in this as Memo Paris. We have Wilford Brimley in this as the coach, Pop Fisher, along with Richard Farnsworth as part of the coaching staff, who plays Red Blow. There's also Barbara Hershey playing Harriet Bird. Jodan Baker is in this at the beginning, playing the Whammer, who is a character that appears in the book, but the character was based on Babe Ruth, although not Babe Ruth, but when you see it, you'll get Babe Ruth vibes. Michael Marsden also makes one of his early film roles in this movie. He plays one of the players. He's supposed to be the most famous player at the time on the New York Knights, the fictional baseball team in the movie The Natural. He was their big star player, Bump Bailey. The basic storyline of The Natural is a middle-aged baseball player seemingly comes out of nowhere and becomes one of the best players in the game for a season on the New York Knights. He basically takes them from last place up to World Series contention, even though it doesn't show a World Series. It is a fictionalized story. There is actually no such team as the New York Knights. He sort of comes out of nowhere, becomes a legend, and seemingly has some sort of supernatural baseball talent. But the movie starts out with him 16 years earlier when he is supposedly 19 years old, which he's still played by Robert Redford as a 19-year-old, and Glenn Close is playing his girlfriend at 19. It's a little bit of a stretch. Neither one of them look that age. Glenn Close was in her 30s, and Robert Redford was in his late 40s at the time of making this movie. Don't get me wrong, Robert Redford is a beautiful man, but it might have been a little bit of a missed opportunity to... Somebody could have dug up a young Brad Pitt who would have been the right age at this time and had him play a young Robert Redford for this movie. Just try to suspend your disbelief at that part and go along with them being 19 at the time. At the beginning, when they're 19, they're young, they're in love, but he has a chance to play baseball. He's going on a train to try out for, I believe, the Chicago Cubs, and never makes it there because he was shot before he could make the tryout, and his career ends up taking a sideline for 16 years, and he kind of drops out of existence from his hometown, from his young sweetheart, and just sort of goes away for 16 years and shows back up again unknown at the age of 35 and plays baseball and gets on a Major League Baseball team. And there is a lot of jokes about him at 35 being an old timer. Oh, if 35 was an old timer. The Natural, like I said, is a magical movie. It is not without its flaws. Like I said, the flaw of us believing that Glenn Close and Robert Redford were anywhere near the age of 19 at the beginning of the movie. Even 35 is kind of a stretch for Robert Redford. There's also, a lot of little things. If you think about the movie storyline too much, you'll find a lot of flaws in it. But this movie is held together by a fantastic score by Randy Newman and magical cinematography by Caleb Deschanel, who is the father of Zooey Deschanel. He also is the cinematographer for a lot of things, but in that same time frame, he was also the cinematographer for The Right Stuff. But between Randy Newman's magical score that comes up at just the right places in the movie, and the magical lighting in this movie. I mean, this movie looks beautiful and the score sounds beautiful. And it just comes up at the right moment to really, cement the fantasticalness of this movie. If that is even an actual word, I don't think so, but there is something, if you don't think too hard about the things that don't work about this movie, how, yes, the book that it's based on is a more cynical telling, and it doesn't end up quite as tied with a little bow, but it is a throwback to an old, 50s style of movie from Hollywood. Like I said, you have the right star in Robert Redford to pull this off. There is plenty of baseball fans that this is their favorite baseball movie. I would probably say this and Field of Dreams ranks high up there on the list of every baseball fan's favorite baseball movies. And at the time of release, it did get mixed reviews. Famously, in Siskel and Ebert, one of them gave them thumbs up, the other one gave thumbs down. It was Roger Ebert that gave it the thumbs down and Gene Siskel that gave it the thumbs up. If you ever get a chance to look at Roger Ebert's review of this movie, do it, because even though he hated this movie, he was quite the writer. Even when he insults a movie and doesn't like it, it is beautifully written. And it's kind of funny the way he insults a movie also. His reviews had a lot of humor in them, even when he disliked the movie. And he really did dislike this movie. I think he gave it 2 stars. And there's some shots at Robert Redford in that review as well. And for me, this movie works. I am not a sports fan, which is no secret to anybody who knows me, but there's something about a baseball movie that just really, like, somehow baseball and the legend of baseball lends itself really good to movies, or really well to movies. And The Natural is no exception. From the magical bat Wonder Boy in this movie, or the Savoy Special, to the look of the movie, to the score of the movie, to just that old Hollywood feeling that Robert Redford gives you, to Kim Basinger is beautiful in this movie. I mean, it does pit the women in this movie. All of the bad women are dressed in darker colors most of the time, like Barbara Hershey and Kim Basinger. They are vampy, and Glenn Close is the more wholesome woman character in this movie. Although, it doesn't flesh out the female characters, and I wish they were better written female characters in this movie. It does give them that magical good and evil sense. Glenn Close has a angelic quality in this movie. She's dressed mostly in white. She's backlit with that halo glow on the hair, much like Robert Redford is lit in this golden boy sort of style. It just works. I can't explain it. Just watch the movie, especially if you're a baseball fan. Watch this movie. There's, like I said, a lot of flaws in it, but in the end, as a whole, this movie just works. Most of the movie, The Natural, is shot in and around Buffalo, New York as well. The baseball stadiums, let's see, the Knights Field was War Memorial Stadium in Buffalo, New York. It was built in the 1930s, so the time frame that it was built was right for the movie, which most of the movie takes place in 1939. So there had to be a lot of renovations of the stadium. It wasn't well kept, and in fact, War Memorial Stadium was demolished in 1988. So just 4 years after this movie came out, the stadium is gone. It's not something you can visit. Wrigley Field, which is portrayed in this movie, is also another stadium that is in Buffalo, New York. That is All High Stadium, which is on Mercer Avenue in Buffalo, which the land that was on is now a high school. For the budget of this movie, it was made for about $28 million, made about $50 million at the time of the box office. It had a huge opening at the box office of just over $5 million, which in the early to mid 80s, that was quite the haul. It is considered, for the type of movie it was, to be a hit, even though it made its money back and a little bit of profit, so it wasn't a runaway blockbuster, but a really huge hit. And it is loved by the baseball community. A lot of baseball players and baseball fans credit this as their favorite baseball movie. And The Natural is regarded as helping herald back in baseball movies. A lot of them came out during the mid and late 80s, and without The Natural, movies like Bull Durham and Field of Dreams, half of Kevin Costner's movie career probably wouldn't have happened without The Natural being a success. The Natural in 1985 at the 57th Academy Awards was nominated for 4 Oscars. It didn't go on to win any of those Oscars, but it was nominated for, Glenn Close was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. We have Best Art Direction it was nominated for, and of course it was nominated for Best Original Score and Best Cinematography, which it's well deserved, those 2 nominations. But like I said, it didn't go on to win any of those awards. In the end, I would say The Natural is a must-watch for any baseball fan. If you like the mythical nature that baseball can sometimes have, you will love The Natural. If there's any way that you haven't seen The Natural, if you're a baseball fan. So check it out. It's readily available. It is beloved don't think too deeply about the storyline. Just surrender yourself, suspend your disbelief, and let the score and the cinematography wash all over you, along with the perfect movie star qualities of Robert Redford, and just give into the fantasy of this film. It is very uplifting in some ways. Just the score of this movie just like uplifts you. I can't explain it, but give 1984's The Natural a try if you haven't, and if you haven't seen it in a long time, give it another watch. And if you saw it once and you don't like it, watch it again. Maybe you'll like it now. Maybe you'll hate it still. Doesn't matter. If you've seen The Natural, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think of The Natural. If you're a baseball fan, is The Natural one of your favorite baseball movies, or can you just not stand it? What is your favorite baseball movie? But if you don't know, my name is Stacia. I like to talk about movies on my little corner of the internet, and I invite you to join me. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to grow this and get a community. I love when you comment. I love when you give me the thumbs up. It helps push my content out to more people on YouTube and get them a part of the movie conversation. And if you just want to drop a comment about movies I should watch, I love that too, or your favorite movie memories. But I want to thank you all for watching. Thank all my subscribers. It's a small channel, but we're growing. We're slowly growing and building a community here. And like I said, I'd love for you to join us. But again, I love you all. I will see you next time. Bye.